Welcome back to the Abundant Harvest Homestead. I'm Papa Pepper. For a bit now, we've been getting like 4 seasons every week. A week ago we had snow, we had freezing stuff, we had temps in the at least 70s, possibly 80s. So much variety. And that's the way it is often here in the Ozarks. It's kind of the seasons change as you head into spring. Still technically winter for about another week, I guess. Close to. But yeah, right now in the 70s. I don't know if it'll hit the 80s today, but things are waking up, things are doing well. And I'm gonna talk a little bit later in this video about one tool that makes my life on the homestead so much easier. And if you pay attention, you might be able to figure a few things out even before I spell it all out for you guys in this video. So feel free. Just wanted to show you just a couple things around here. And then I got to get this trailer unloaded because I got to load it, because I got to unload it, because I got to load it so I can unload it. So I'll be doing that as I talk a bit too. Check this out though. Now I hope one day to get an amazing pond on my property. Something that we can maybe even swim in, something that can hold some fish, something of a decent size. A dream I had for a lot of my life. And I gave up on that dream at one point. I was gonna stick to like a kiddie pool with a couple turtles in for a bit of the summer or something. But the other year I had a pond liner. I had an opportunity to use a Mini X and put this pond in. It's not perfect, it's got a lot of room for improvement, but the cool thing is that I am over a year and a half now of not running any aeration in it. So part of my balancing game here is to try to have enough fish and turtles that are going to eat aquatic vegetation to keep the aquatic vegetation knocked back, but to have enough aquatic vegetation that it's aerating the water so that the fish can breathe. This is looking pretty good. Again, it is by no means perfect. I did just kind of take a bunch of the algae and stuff and piled up in one area. I kind of want to build a little bit of a growing medium here. Cattails were actually growing here last year, and a couple other forms of, you know, weeds that grow in water. There is some goldfish swimming around in there. I'm not sure if you guys, yeah, you can see them. A couple of goldfish in there. There's some other stuff too, but there hasn't been any aeration in over a year, and there's a bunch of little fish in there. Some of the fish we put in there must have been breeding, because that's a lot of babies. That's just really cool. Bigger ponds you can get kind of self-sufficient a little easier, where they don't need aeration and stuff. Smaller stuff, a little more difficult. One other thing I really like about this time of year, check it out. The plum trees, the fruit trees, these ones happen to be plums, are flowering, and there's all sorts of little bees coming in here, starting stuff up. These 3 here actually happen to be, that one's pretty rough. This one looks pretty good. Something's on my eye. I don't know if it was an ant or a bee. But our first YouTube payout ever, we bought those plum trees and some other stuff. So if you guys don't usually do it, please give this video either a thumbs up or a thumbs down. It just helps our channel. And feel free to leave a comment too. That helps the channel as well. Even if you don't like it, give me a thumbs down. Tell me why. But right now, I'm working on a bit of suppression. And if I don't tame it here, it just grows up into a wild wilderness. Here, a little bit ago, I charboiled it all. I hit it with the weed burner, and now I'm suppressing it with some mulch. So whenever I go to town, especially to the recycling center we use, they often have free mulch there. So I like to bring the trailer with me, because if I can pick up a load of free mulch while I'm there, I will gladly use it on my property. In a couple years, that stuff even breaks down and makes a really good soil, which I really like. But right now, I'm just gonna load up some 5-gallon buckets and bins and stuff and keep suppressing that area over there so that I can, you know, knock back the weeds a little bit, prevent the reproduction of the weeds. I hopefully burned up a bunch of weed seeds and stuff, but I just don't want all that growing and reproducing. I want to kind of have some stuff manicured, less ticks, less weeds we don't like, grow plants that we do. That type of hustle and shuffle around here. So I'm gonna get this empty quick, and then we'll get on with this video. I could move all my full buckets over where I'm taking them, but for right now I only need an empty trailer for what I'm working on, not empty buckets at the moment. Soon I'm going to, but I might have enough empty buckets over there to take care of what I need, so I'll just leave them. If I need to dump them out and gather them later, then I will. Okay. I'm just gonna dump out some because I got the trailer here right now. It makes more sense for me to dump them out now and put them on the trailer and have them with me if I need them than to have to run up here a separate time without the trailer and do all that. So let me dump some, I'll throw the empty ones in the trailer and we'll go from there. Now at least I got them if I need them. One cool thing about the way I built my garden too, like I pull in trailer loads of rocks, I pull in trailer loads of mulch, I pull in compost, other things, sometimes 5-gallon buckets of rabbit manure. I think I'll be doing that later today as I plant some asparagus here, some more asparagus, but I actually develop life as I go. So kind of like a permaculture principle of observing something first and then working with it to get the most, ROI. Make things as simple as you can. I kind of did that here. If you look behind me, you can see a nice path heading up, right? Well, there's a little walkway in between here. And then if from over here, you look behind me, there's a nice pathway coming up. What happens is I can drive all the way up into my garden area and then all the way back around and out. So I'm gonna walk the path back to the truck this way. I can also come in this way if I prefer, but it gives me an opportunity, like I'll chip or shred that. All this firewood's gonna be cut and moved. That'll be with the trailer, that'll be easy. My garden shed is a mess, but I can drive right through all of this. I got some garden on my outside, some garden on my inside. And then when I'm building new raised beds or making them higher, bringing in rocks, bringing in different resources, I can just drive all the way around. Now, my trailer's not very big, and it's definitely easy to back up even in sharp corners and stuff to make a Y turn or something like that. But if I just take one big old loop, it's so much easier than having to back up with my trailer. I can just kind of be on drive, go, go, go mode the whole time. So I'm gonna drive up into the garden, then back out that way, back to a little metal building I built, which if you guys watch our videos, I think it would have been the last video if I get my publishing in sequence. I'm gonna head over there right now. Better that I drop those buckets off ahead of time and have them where I want them. Oh, and what I actually wanted to show you comes from in this building. So you saw that it took me till after dark. I pulled up the truck and shined a light on this section because when I was putting up that wall, I could barely see. I put up one over here and said, no, I need a light. So I pulled the truck up a little bit behind where you guys are, finished that after dark. It was super good. Definitely liked it. Now I've got this great building here. And I decided, you know what, let's put all the kayaks here. Okay, I got some fishing poles I'm putting up above, paddles over here. I think I'm gonna put the nets over there. Over here, we're gonna hang our life jackets. I'm gonna have more, like 2 shelves here, one for fishing poles, one for other stuff, maybe the bow fish and stuff. And then back over in here, I'm gonna have a shelf that I put a bunch of stuff up for fishing stuff. So if I've got a fishing adventure I'm gonna go on, and I got a great one planned, we are actually gonna do a survival kayak trip. I think there's gonna be 6 father-son teams, if you will. A number of guys with 1 son, a couple guys with 2 sons, and we're gonna go out on a kayak trip, no food, no water, over 20 miles of river, and an overnight camping one, where anything we eat is gonna have to come from the wild, and we're gonna have so minimal supplies. I'm gonna take Monster Truck with me on that. He's 9. Whew. And I'll tell you what, that would intimidate some people to head out in the middle of nowhere with like very few supplies and no food, no water. But I plan on feasting like a king if we can do it right. We'll see how it works out. But what I can do is I can drive up here, right, with my trailer, boom, throw all the kayaks on, grab all of our fishing stuff, all right, take off and go. When it come home, pull up here, unload it all. I had some of these stored in my lean-to in my shipping container, but I want that for work. And I only had 3 of them stored, and they were like roped up to the ceiling. Here, they're just resting in here. I can grab them, throw them in, pull them out. There's no tying ropes on them, coiling them up, raising them like a pulley to the ceiling. I don't need any of that. And I'll tell you what too, man, I could fit, I know I fit 3 of these inside my truck before, and I could fit these 2 on top. I've got 5, so they could all fit in the truck, but they wouldn't all go on a trip. You wouldn't be able to fit 5 people. So that's where my trailer comes in handy. Just pull up here, load everything up and go. But at the moment, why I needed the empty trailer was these guys here. See this? Okay, I have a video where I talk about getting wood straight from a sawmill. And when you can do that, you cut out the middleman. They don't need to ship it anywhere because you're picking it up where they make it. You don't need to pay someone to stock it because nobody's stocking it. You take all these little parts, all these little markups out of the picture when you buy direct. So we go to the sawmill and we pick up this inch oak. I used to be able to get over 1,000 board feet, roughly 150 boards for about 150 bucks. Now with inflation, it's went up to 225. Still an amazing deal, but really to pick up a board, what is this? 1 inch thick, a solid 8 inches long, okay, not lumber 8 inches, which is like 7 1/4 these days if you buy a 2x8, and over 8 feet long. Imagine paying $1 for that, or $1.50 for that board. Boy, compared to what you'd pay somewhere. So this stuff, I picked up a bunch of it when things started getting bad the other year, because I didn't know how bad they were gonna get. And I figured if I happened to be stuck on my property for a long time, I've got projects I can work on, but only if I got materials. So I picked up some buckets of screws, picked up some couple loads of lumber like that, and I had them here, but they really need to be dry. They need to be stored somewhere out of the elements. So I'm gonna stack them up in here, and I'm contemplating even maybe either filling in this wall, making an actual wall here, because I don't really need this part open. I just put this here for now for fun. But I'm gonna load up another load and get it out of that area, because eventually I want to build a pavilion out there. So we're gonna get the next load on top of here. I just gotta pull my trailer up over there now that it's empty from the buckets. See, out over here, this is where I was grabbing them from. This is one pile of stuff. There's another, and I got all sorts of stuff to clean up and organize. Now that I got some place to do it, I can. This stuff here and that stuff there are going to get put back there and there. But you grab a couple boards at a time is a good workout, but it's time consuming. The children will use our kind of rickshaw looking cart to load up boards and do that stuff too, but so much easier just to grab the trailer here, back it right up where I need to, just throw them on, back up where I need to over there and throw them off. So I'm gonna get this loaded here and then see if I can fit all this on one trailer load. At least one of the full piles is going to be moved, and then I'll work on that one later, but I at least want to cross one off of my list. today, especially while I have an empty trailer. It changes so much. It's full, it's empty, it's full, it's empty, it's in use, it's whatever. So I want to utilize it while I got it empty in here and while I'm home on a nice sunny day. I was just talking about nets. Rest of that pile fit on there, and I've got 4 pallets sitting there where I can put the stuff from there on there to load up the rest of that later. Some of this is still a little bit moist from like the snow and stuff last week, so I'm only adding a little bit at a time, at least giving it some chance to dry, rather than just stacking a bunch of wet boards all together back there. And I know that at least twice as much could have fit on here because that's what I did last night. You can see they're even sticking off the front, and thankfully I can drop that back tailgate so they can hang off the back and off the front and go a little longer. It's just if you stick them off too far this way, when you turn, they'll hit the back of your vehicle. So you want to make sure you can still make a sharp turn if you got them. Let's get that back there and unloaded. To get the wood that I did at the time that I did was a smart move. It gave me resources on hand that I could have worked with. It was a great price, and with inflation, you know, it was a great place to put some of my money rather than waiting till later to buy all my wood. It would have costed me more. But also, as an investment, you just saw me put a bunch of wood mulch on the ground. In a couple years, that wood mulch is going to be soil. It's going to biodegrade. If this stuff just sits out, eventually it's not going to exist. So as an investment, just like other investments, I have to protect it. Now that I have this building and I'm solving some of my storage issues on our property, I have a good place to put it. You know, some of this will be used for other buildings to store other things. As long as it exists, I can use it. If I destroy it through negligence or just leaving it out in the weather, it won't exist. I've lost some boards already out of this, you know, shipment that just became unusable. So these ones are still good at this point. I'm going to put the rest of that stuff in here. This will just be where I store it and where I come to get it when I need to use it for other projects. Inch oak is kind of heavy. Not as heavy as 1.5 inches, but you're dealing with a hardwood. It's a dense wood, and I'm glad I don't have to carry it even, you know, couple hundred yards. At least I'm able to move it over here with the trailer, so much better. One thing I've mentioned before, that if you guys are getting into homesteading, or if you're getting into the stage of homesteading where you're thinking about animals, listen to my words here. Learn from my mistakes. One thing we did was we were so excited to get started. we picked up a good amount of animals, a good amount of pasture eating animals. And we had a little area fenced in. It wasn't too long till our animals ate that down to about the bare earth. I mean, look at this behind me. That's bare earth. It wasn't too long till they did that. Then we fenced in another area and let them eat that down to bare earth. It is so much easier to have something and keep it and maintain it than to have something, get rid of it, and then reacquire it. In our case, it was we had pasture. We decimated it and removed it from existence, and now we're trying to get back to having it again. If you have a ram and a couple ewes, say you got 2 ewes and 1 ram, you might think, hey, 3 animals, that's not too much for a pasture, right? Well, it depends on the size of the pasture, but you give them 1 breeding season, and both of those could throw doubles. They could each throw twins. If they did that, now you've got 4 new sheep to your original 3. You more than doubled your flock, just like that. And some can breed every 6 months. So in 1 year, you could triple or quadruple your flock really easily. They're tasty. Feel free to eat them. But you got to kind of consider some of that stuff as you get involved in things like this. So one thing I'm doing right now is building up my pasture. Got hay. She's sneaking in the hayloft. Got hay in the hayloft. Hay in the side of here. We feed them hay here. These ones here that are eating the hay don't eat all the hay. Look at the ground here. They don't eat it all. And then they poop and they pee on it. So what we have is a really good mulch. And I'm about to take a year off of planting and gardening and all sorts of stuff. But before that year starts for me, I'm going to seed some of my pasture. If the seed just sits there, the birds, rabbits, our chickens, our guineas, our ducks, you know, things will eat it. But if I plant it or sow it and then tuck it in, it's going to be hidden. It's going to be buried. I remember people, I think back in Wisconsin, they used to sow some, I don't know if it was winter rye or if it was some sort of winter oats, but they would throw it on the field right before it snowed. And the snow would cover it and the birds wouldn't eat it. And then it would actually pop up through the snow eventually in the spring, you know, just crazy looking stuff. But here, I'm going to use my buckets and I'm going to take a bunch of this because it keeps getting built bigger and bigger. That's my sliding door doesn't exactly work right now because of how much has been added, how much mass has been added to the ground right there. That's fine. It makes a better growing medium here. But I want to share it and spread it around my property. So I'm going to pull this trailer up rather close and then fill all these buckets and then take them out to my pasture. And I can carry a 5-gallon bucket just like I can carry a board. But to do it with the trailer makes it so much easier. I can get a trailer load of buckets all at one time. And I'm going to like that a whole lot better. So let me get situated here and see what I do with these other ones. I'm gonna let the mamas and the lambs out. You open this all the way, okay? I should have let Red Pepper know I was about to scoop everything out of here because she just added hay. Yep, go for it, mama. Go for it. Oh. See that? I let them know, and then they know.
What? Hey, come on.
Louder. All right, guys, ready? Come with me. They find something green and they're so happy. Daisy looked like she was listening. Yeah, here they come. They're running to the sheep. I can't believe you opened that gate or left that gate open. Oops, change of plans. Nobody shut that gate. So they hung a right over here. And instead are gonna do our groundskeeping up here, which if you don't already know, the best lawnmower that I have is my sheep. I've got a whole video on it. I'll put it up over here. Sheep are an excellent lawnmower. If you're considering a lawnmower, that reproduces after its own kind, that is edible, that fertilizes as it goes, that just takes water, not gas. Oh man, they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. And that's one reason I love sheep as my lawnmower. Well, at least I got them out of my way for now. It's not what we were planning on doing, but they took a right rather than following me. That's fine. They know what they're doing. One thing to think about as you view everything as a resource and get in kind of the swing of things, in a lot of places you're going to have your animals grazing for your spring, summer, fall. In the winter, it normally turns into a hay time. The winter is also a time where you may be using straw as a bedding, even on your poultry and things like that. So normally you build up with some biomass over the winter. It's normally some sort of hay or straw or both mixed with feces and urine, manure, which is good fertilizer. Here, I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's actually a distinct line where things get deeper. And that's actually, boy, probably about 3 inches deeper or 4 inches deeper than ground level. I know because there's a board like that at the bottom of that door. We can't see it right now. So I'm going to begin removing this stuff to use it elsewhere, but this happens yearly. I'll also be cleaning out the poultry pens and doing the same thing. Thankfully, sheep manure, goat manure is like rabbit manure in that it is a cold manure, that it won't burn your plants, so you can apply it directly to the garden. Since this is mixed with hay seed and potentially straw seed, I'm not going to put it in my garden, but I'll use it on my pastures, where if there's seed from that stuff, then it'll just help build up the pastures. It got windy, so I stepped inside. But even with chicken manure, we'll apply that directly to our pasture. And there's a lot of people who will do stuff like that. They'll even pick it up from chicken houses and use a manure spreader to spread it on their hay fields and their pastures. So even if it is a hot manure that's not fully composted, you can still find a use for it. I just wouldn't put it on your garden plants. But even if you're generating enough hay on your own property where you're not buying hay from an outside source, you should still wind up with something. This is deeper in here too. This whole thing has so much extra in here, and that's fine. And like I said, it's going to be used to build up our pastures. But if I kept going in here, you just keep losing and losing and losing, and it'd be shorter and shorter and shorter in here every year. So it takes a little bit of effort. If I had a skid steer or something like that, if you look at the jobs I had already, I could have got quite a bit of that mulch out of the trailer and moved it to where I wanted with a skidder. I could have put some forks on my skid steer if I had one. You know, moved a bunch of that wood real easy, set it down real easy. I could have made this with a bigger door to come in here and just scoop this out real clean too. You know, if you've got something like that, use it. Or even a tractor with a bucket. Build your things where you can use it. Build your things high enough you can drive your tractor in it. Build your doors big enough, your pathways, your other things big enough that you can drive your tractor in them. I build things more for a smaller thing because I don't have that type of equipment. I've just got me. But even with just me, the trailer allows me to exponentially do the work quicker, even though I'm doing a lot of it by hand. Whether it's moving the 5-gallon buckets of mulch, moving the 5-gallon buckets of this, moving the boards, by being able to kind of bundle and save and fill a trailer with them to do the big distances, that helps me out a lot. I want to tell you one awesome thing about this too. Right now, I did not back up the way that I wanted to accomplish this, and I've got a fence right in front of me. I could monkey around going back and forth little bit by little bit. Oh. But instead, I can move that trailer by hand. In fact, my children can. I came out the other day, my trailer was in a different spot. It was unattached from the truck, and I go, kids, did you move my trailer? And Pinky goes, yeah, I moved it out of the way for something. I'm like, wow, which is really cool. I know a guy who builds buildings and moves them, and he's got a trailer that underneath the trailer you got your, your tires like this, it rolls back and forth, but underneath there he's got one that comes down that faces this way so he can swing it back and forth. Just crazy to see. I saw him pull up once to a cabin he was moving for somebody, and the cabin's here, and he pulls up like this, and I'm like, wow, he totally missed that. Like, he does this for a living. All of a sudden his trailer raises as that tire comes down and it swings over into position and he backs right up to it. I'm like, mind blown. You got to plan for that stuff ahead of time. Here, because my trailer is so small and light and I'm strong enough, physically capable enough, I can just move it where I want it. So I'm just going to reposition my truck now without it, and then it'll be right where I want it, rather than having to dink around a whole bunch with the two of them joined together. If only my truck could move the trailer. So that's cool. Good thing I grabbed all those extra buckets, and I've got at least another load like that I could do. If I had a child who is older and able to drive, I might just heap up a mound on there, and then in the pasture just have them drive slowly while I pitch it off. But here the 5-gallon buckets work best. So this kind of is the final task I wanted to accomplish with this trailer today. I've got some kind of store-bought seed that I'm planting here, and then some we saved ourselves. The stuff we saved ourselves is like yarrow, lamb's quarter. Those we saved ourselves from the wild. We like to have them established. They're good. They're good for us. They're good for our animals. Then I also have some white clover, which, you know, is a native natural species. I think it's native. A lot of those ones are naturalized, and they came from Europe and Asia originally. But I'm going to spread some of those out here too. A good perennial that'll, you know, be here for years to come once it's established. And then we have some oats and corn that was in a barrel. And right now I'm starting to move my feed barrels into that building I just made. But we had one that got moisture inside it, so some of the seeds started sprouting. Some of the other stuff started like souring or fermenting, if you will. So I'm going to plant some of those here. The oats can grow up, the corn can grow up, and, you know, the tops can be eaten. If you look at a couple of these things, guys, I understand that I could store my feed better and then not have seed that's sprouting because it got wet. But in that negative situation, I can still view it as a positive and sow that stuff. It's already germinated, it's already sprouting. If I throw it here and give it a good cover of this hay and manure, then it's going to be over the whole thing. It's going to be in a moist environment. It'll be able to sprout up from there. Also, if you notice the amount of biomass I was removing from that winter pen for them, we could set up a hay feeding system that would reduce the waste. I understand that. But even last year I was buying hay bales that had a good seed content and also just a lot of, biomass that I was spreading on my pastures because they were cheaper than just straw, and I was trying to build my pastures up. So I don't mind having that waste because it's not waste for us, we use it. Let me get this trailer unloaded and then I'm gonna get back to the one tool on this homestead I wouldn't want to live without and why it's such a blessing to me. Let me take care of this. I'll probably show you before and after real quick. Here's the section I'm starting with, which is a whole pile of little pine trees that I planted recently. I'm just gonna sow a bunch of seed around here, put that down around here, and then move out from here. This is obviously, look behind me, that's Ozarks for you guys. Look at that ground. That soil is just rock. So I want to build up a layer of stuff on top of there. That's my goal here. This stuff I'll probably pick a layer of rocks off the top first and then add to it. But the stuff I'm standing on, can you see why I want to build up my pasture? I mean, look at that. Oh, grasshopper. But this is what we're dealing with here. You should see when I was putting the post holes, I used the post hole digger to put these pine trees in. I was tearing up my flesh. That blister ripped open like right away. I had another one over on this hand. It's tough stuff. Mountain life ain't exactly easy. You can see a lot of these mulleins are tipped over here too. So those mulleins also will be spreading their seeds and then growing up here too. But here's the before. I'll show you a little look at this, the before, and then we'll give it the after. Here's the after. Didn't quite make it as far as I wanted, which means I've got more work to do after I finish this video. I'll give you one look at this after, and then we'll talk about that tool. Pretty decent and thick. I wanted it. I put the stuff here first and I walked over it as I put the stuff farther away to kind of pat it down. The stuff that is growing, that mullein, other things can still grow through, but it's also not entirely that deep, because some of those seeds I planted were rather small and kind of like to be surface sown. So we'll see. But eventually, I don't know. We got to get these pastures up and running. This part will actually be fenced off a bit too, so my animals don't nibble down these trees when I turn this over to them. But you can see where certain stuff was. It would catch the leaves, add to it. There's some different areas up there where there's a lot of mullein, and they're really adding some biomass too. Here, once they start growing up, it'll hold the leaves in place even more. Same thing here, where all this won't just wash downhill. It'll be kind of held in place by the stuff that sprouts up through it. But my favorite tool that I couldn't live without on this homestead is this trailer right here. Obviously, if you were paying attention, you could probably tell I was talking about it and using it the whole time. We've used it to shuffle animals, we've used it to get hay, we've used it to do everything you've seen in this video. Like I said, I like the size of this one, for instance, for me, just because I don't have a big, 3/4 ton or 1 ton heavy duty truck to pull a lot of weight. I've definitely brought home, I think, at least 30 hay bales on here before. Used it for a number of things. One thing that I like though, this one has a gate. Folds all the way down so I can run that longer stuff. A lot of those gates on some of them cannot fold this way. That really restricts what you're able to use them for, and I personally don't like that. I like being able to have a lot of long flat stuff on there if I need. Now remember, if it's extended beyond the end of your trailer, you put a red flag on there during the day, and at night put a red light. So people can see it and they're not looking at your taillights or running into something sticking way off the end of your trailer. I've built some of my property. This is about as far from my house as I can get on the property. And I can get over here with a trailer. I can get all sorts of different places because of the size of the paths that I'm leaving and using cattle panels as gates. The cattle panels as a gate really help too, because then I got a 16-foot wide section to drive through. Here's more of that mullein. I'll probably spread some over the top of that. Whew. I get so much done because of that thing. And like I said, it'd be different if I had a tractor or a skid steer. A lot of that could function in place of me 5-gallon buckets and a trailer. I could just sit in my seat and do all that. If I had one of those instead, I'd probably be chubbier. I probably wouldn't be as borderline lean as I am. While I'm looking over there, there's a whole bunch of 5-gallon buckets full of rocks. Is it? Yeah, right up across there, all those guys. I take loads of them on the trailer too. So I only have to lift those 5-gallon buckets of rocks so far. I plan on even maybe this year getting every T-post on my border with a gabion, with a rock pillar around it. So that's just a little bit of how in just one day, and you miss the trip to town with it. And that's one thing too. With something like this, there are some stuff, let's say I've got some nasty garbage. Let's say it's not just some regular paper that I'm going to use to start a fire in my house to heat my house. Let's say it's not something recyclable I'm taking in the recycles. You know, then I got to take it to the dump or take it to a trash disposal place. Some of that stuff you're not going to want in your vehicles, even if you got vehicles as junky as mine. A trailer where you don't have to smell it or have it leak, you know, if it's juicy, that's awesome. So that's the video for today, guys. It definitely makes my life so much easier. This one I bought when I was moving down here. I ran back up to get a load of stuff, bought a trailer in Wisconsin. This one I bought at Tractor Supply and then drove down with it. I could have bought one here, but then I'd have to drag it all the way up to get my stuff and then drag it down. So it worked out well for me to do it the way I did. I think at the time I spent $700 something on it. So we can call it $800 with tax, plus it didn't come with a spare tire, things like that. Right now I think there might be over $1,000. If it's in your budget to get something like that, if you're going to be moving a lot of materials, free mulch, I take my recycling in on there sometimes. You know, the rocks, cedars. I'll put cedars on there because I can drop that tailgate. I'll fill that trailer with the cedars. It works really well. Certainly works well for us. Otherwise I'd have to shove them on top of my truck, strap them to there, you know. Which again, I don't mind because my truck's kind of, it's nothing nice, but some people never would want anything like that. So there it is. I'll see you guys next time. Papa out.